Hi there, and thank you for perusing this how-to video on iBooks Author and its uses in the classroom, especially for annotation and close reading. I use iBooks Author in the classroom to help make nonfiction or boring readings more engaging and to create a quick annotation assignment. This is really nice for students who lose everything or the kids who forget the instructions about a quarter of the way into the assignment. For students, any book you create in iBooks Author can be opened for them in iBooks, or you can download it as a PDF, which I'll get more into a little bit later on. And depending on how you use it, you can have kids highlighting, commenting. They can use text to speech. They can use a dictionary on it. If you have them have it as a PDF, students can download it into Notability and then they can actually submit it to their drives, so you can make it an assignment that you can then go back in and check off. One quick recommendation with iBooks Author, don't be a perfectionist. You're only going to get frustrated. I am a huge perfectionist, so I feel like I'm very well equipped to speak about this. So just keep that in mind. You're going to see several mistakes that I make as we go through this, so keep it in mind. Don't be a perfectionist. This is all about learning, and I can tell you that through doing several of these iBooks, it gets a lot easier and you learn to let some of the littler things go. So without further ado, the first thing we need to do is go down to the launch pad and open up iBooks Author. It's got a little book and a pen. If you don't have it, you should be able to download it. If it's telling you you have to pay money, make sure you talk to the Vanguard representative in your building so that you get that for free. So I have a whole bunch of different templates to choose from. You can go with blank. However, I kind of like that things are set up for me, so I always go with a template. I'm an English teacher, so obviously when I look at this, the thing that looks easiest is using the classic because, well, I'm such a classy girl, number one, and that seems to fit my subject area the most. Or maybe the antique if I was talking about Moby Dick at all. However, I want you to notice one thing. All these pictures are things that you can change really easily. So if you really like the green of the cookbook, then by all means go with the green of the cookbook because you can cover up that picture no problem. I'm going to choose photo book. I haven't used it before, and let's see if I can do this without crashing and burning. So I clicked on it. You can either double click or hit choose. It's going to take a second to bring it up. All right, so have a nice little background here. It doesn't tell me, or it doesn't look super Afghani to me though, so I'm going to start off by changing that right away before I think of anything else. I've actually gone through and found a picture. So this is my subject, the Hazaras, Afghanistan's Outsiders. I'm actually doing double duty with this, as this is going to be an article that I'm having my 10th graders read before we get into Kite Runner. So a picture that I want to use, this is important to the article. It talks about it, so this will be something that students can talk about with each other. If you don't know anything about this, you should notice this big gaping hole here. It does end up being quite important when you start reading through the article. So I'm going to copy it, which I can hold down the control button, and if I click on it, notice I said control and not command. You can hit copy image. Then going into iBooks Author, I'm going to click on this background picture, and I'm going to hit Command V, and that should paste it right over top. All right, perfect. All right, so the next thing I need to do, oh, it says down here you can kind of mess with it. You can zoom in really close, or if you want, depending on the size of the photo that you have. I've never personally done anything with that, but feel free to. All right, the next thing, I'm going to take out this one because as you can see over here, it sets it up in chapters and sections. That's not something I'm going to be using, so I'm going to just not worry about it. So I'm going to take out this number one, and I am going to insert a text box though. One thing with iBooks is to make sure that you give credit where credit's due. I did not write this article on the Hazaras. I'm not an expert on Afghanistan, but the author of this article, whose name is, let's see here, Phil Zabriskie, he is. So I want to make sure that I'm giving him credit because otherwise I can get in a little bit of trouble with copyright law, and I'd prefer to not have any charges brought up against me. So I'm going to start by entering that in. Zabriskie, Phil. The article title is Hazaras, Afghanistan's Outsiders. I'm always a terrible typer when people are watching me, even though I guess you're not totally watching me right now. You're not over my shoulder. This is from National Geographic online, and it was put out in February of 2008. I am also going to copy and paste the URL. So Command C and back to iBooks author, Command V. You could also just write online resource there. That'd probably be just as good. All right, so you'll notice that this is kind of a lot to put into a little space. If you want to, make sure that you have it included, but you could drop down the font a little bit if you need that space. So I'm going to drop it down to an 11. It's teeny tiny, I know, but I think it'll be necessary. I'm just going to pop this text box up a little bit. Now I'm going to put in my title. So I'm taking Phil Zabrisky's work, so I'm calling it Hazaras, Afghanistan's Outsiders. Now you'll notice outsiders just disappeared. Don't panic if that happens to you. You can do a couple different things to fix this. First of all, my font size is a 36. I can drop that down. This little plus size here, though, plus sign here, if I click on that and drag it down, it's going to make that text box a little bit bigger, and that's going to help me out for making my size adjustment. If I make that a 24, I can probably make that box a little bit smaller again, which is going to be hard to click on, unfortunately. Perfect. All right, so you'll notice here we have some filler text. It's in Latin, and I have no idea what it says. I can pick out some of the Greek or some of the Latin stems, though. That's neither here nor there. This is where things get a little bit complex, a little bit tricky. Believe it or not, you can actually just take your entire article and copy and paste it in. It's going to be a nightmare. You're going to have to do some cleanup, but just accept that. Let the perfectionist in you let go a little bit. So I'm going to go back to my article. Little trick that I believe Brian Yearling taught me is to go to the printer-friendly version whenever it's possible. So I'm going to click on that, and that's going to give me the whole article set up nicely. It's going to also prompt me to print it, which I'm going to hit cancel because that's not what I want. I've already gotten the outsiders. I'm not going to put this part on. Maybe that'd be something I could put into a text box, but I'm just going to take the actual text of the article. So I'm going to copy all of it, and it is a long article. So I'll Command C, so that's a hotkey trick. Go back to this, and obviously that was a very long article to fit into this little space. So just trust me, I'm going to hold down Command and hit V. So that's paste. And you'll see all of these pages just appeared over here, and they're all really boring and they're all text heavy, which is why it's important, in my opinion, to dress it up a little bit. It keeps kids more engaged. Even though you might be adding pages and they're going to see like, oh my gosh, it's 1,000,000 pages long, you can say, yeah, but there's pictures and there's text boxes that have your directions on every page, and then they'll be a little bit more likely to read through it. You can see we've started off. It talks a little bit about the Bamiyan Buddhas, which the Buddha was in here, the really tragic story. You can read through it if you want. This will be uploaded to the Blackboard site if you're so interested, or you could look up Zabrisky's article and just get it right from the source. There used to be a giant Buddha statue, and there has been, or had been there for about 1,500 years, but the Taliban decided to destroy it, which is quite upsetting. So one more thing I want to include on my first page, and I might not do it just because I think this picture is really great, but I do this usually with every other iBook I do. I put the directions on the very first page and then every page subsequent to that. I know that seems like a lot. However, I have students who will forget exactly what they're doing, especially with annotating. For some reason, they'll be really good for like the first quarter of the assignment, then they kind of forget and they just read through the rest of it, which is great because it might mean that they're very engaged, but it does also mean that they have to go back and work on it a little bit more, which will often be a little bit bothersome to them. So I'm going to click on page 2, and I think I'm going to put in my instructions here. So I'm going to put text box. So when I click on it, you'll see a text box just kind of appears in the middle. I am going to go right to the beginning here, and I'll expand this out, and I'm going to start typing in it. One thing I will also need to do, for some reason it's not letting me take this down a little bit, so I'm going to go to the very beginning of it, and I'm going to hit enter a bunch of times. It's not exactly the neatest or prettiest way of doing that, but it'll work for putting in my text box. Alright, so got my text box here. Another way you can do this is by hitting inline or anchored if you want to. I do it kind of the cheap way. I'm also going to add a little border to it. You can do that, so you'll see up here. I'm right under the add pages. It says none right now. I'm going to add something like that. That way they see that it's really set off. So I'm writing directions in bold. I used Command B to get there because I really love hotkeys. So directions, I'm going to say annotate this text by highlighting, and this is what I generally do, so the students are pretty used to it at this point in the year, by highlighting main ideas in blue and highlighting things you question in yellow. Now, depending on the article, maybe I won't put in things you question, maybe I'll put in things you're interested in or things that you want to know more about. Another thing that helps make this just a little bit better for some students is to actually go through and highlight it. So this right here next to the font size, this little black box, that tells me that my font is black, but this guy gives me the opportunity to highlight. So I can do that. Oh, except I didn't want blue, I wanted yellow there. And highlighting main ideas in blue. I'm going to highlight that and do that. That way kids can see it. It's very obvious. It's color, so they are drawn to it and they remember it. I'm also going to pump up the size a little bit. We'll move that up to an 18. And I'm going to add a direction here. Also, circle words. Maybe I'll just say like circle 2 words per page that you did not know before and define them on the page. Alright, so my plus sign came up, which means that I'm running out of space, so I'm going to Control A, that highlights everything, and maybe I'll move that down to like a size 22 font. This might be something that sounds a little bit insane, but because I'm using language, or I'm using something from a territory in the world, an area in the world where students are not super familiar with it, there might be 2 words per page. It might be something better to go like circle 10 words in the article. So you can do a lot there, however you want your kids to be annotating or whatever you want them looking at for close reading. You can put those directions in there. I highly recommend doing this and doing it often throughout your text just because it helps kids remember what they're supposed to do. Alright, so when I would go through the rest of this, I would find at least 1 picture for every other page. I would maybe move the directions from place to place. Let's see. Let's look at here. Here's the World Trade Center. So I'm going to go find a quick picture of the World Trade Center. And when I do that search, I just click on images to get to that. One thing that can be helpful here is if you're looking for a certain size, like that first picture when I did my original search, I looked for a large size. So that I would have something really good to look at and really big, and so the quality would be good. I'm going to choose, this looks like a good size. So I clicked on that. I'm going to click on View Image, and remember Control and then click. You can copy it that way and go back to iBooks Author. I'm going to click near where it says World Trade Center and hold down Command and hit V. Now, it did not stay very close to World Trade Center, which means, oh, I guess it did. It's right there. Look at that. All right, so you see it switched over to inline there, which was good. I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller because it doesn't need to be quite that large. And if I change that, I just want to show you the different settings. So floating puts it there, which means it's kind of in the middle, which is nice. And you can move it around, make it a little bit easier for kids to see. If I make it anchored, it will place the object and it'll anchor it to the text, so anytime I change anything, it'll be stuck with that text, which isn't such a bad option depending on how much you're planning on doing. One thing, and I'm not going to run through and show you this really, well, maybe I should. I want to make sure to give credit where it's due. That's not a picture I took, so I'm just going to add a quick text box and say where I got it from. I'll just copy and paste the website. I should really be a little bit more detailed than that, but for the sake of time, we will do that. All right, so click off of it. I'm going to move it down there. We'll move the picture up and move that out. And with your citations, feel free to make them kind of small. The point is that you're including it, and that is really, really important. We're going to change that. We'll put it down to an 11. And you could say taken from, that would probably be more official, a little bit good, a little bit better. But here you go. Hopefully you get the idea there. So let's see. Back on page 3, I haven't put in my instructions yet. So let's see. Sometimes I've had this work where it lets me copy an entire text box. Other times I've had it totally fail on me, and I can't really tell you why that is. But it happens. Oh, but today it's working. So I clicked on it, I hit Command C to copy, and then I clicked where I wanted to put it again and Command V. So you'll see over here how it starts to break up the text. It seems like a lot, but again, it's something that does help your kids keep it in their heads, especially if they are students who are prone to forgetfulness. Maybe it's just my classroom in which that happens, but I kind of doubt it. Now, when I did that, I didn't really like how this broke up, so maybe I'll switch up that page, or I'll skip that page and go on to the next one and put it in there. Right, so let's put it in here, and hopefully you get the idea. Okay, so if you wanted to, you could break it up into sections. I did some grammar units over the summer that I broke up into sections like this. That worked out really well. If I go down to page 9, you'll see that it starts over because this was a template. So we have a nice little picture here. We have more of this text. Before I export, I want to make sure that I delete this stuff, that I take it out so that I don't have this just lingering at the end of my stuff, because otherwise the kids are going to look at me and think, hey, Miss Hartwig's crazy again. So I deleted that, and it's gone now, so that's great. So hopefully you get the idea on how you include pictures. I'm not going to go through and bore you with everything I'm going to do to this, but hopefully you've got the idea. Now, here's where things get a little bit tricky. I need to go through and first save it, because of course that's very important. So I'm going to call it Hazaraz, and I'll leave it in documents. That's just fine with me. Now I want to look at how I'm going to export it, and to be totally honest, I usually export it in both iBooks and PDF, because if you've had any experience with iPads in the classroom, you know that sometimes for some reason some files won't open. So what I do is I will open it, or I'll save it in iBooks, I'll save it as a PDF, I'll put them both on the website that way they can choose which one works, and it's usually right there in my directions to do it one way or the other. You can also save it as just a plain text version. I don't like that because it's boring and it just kind of looks like a printer-friendly version of the article that I was having them read in the first place. So let's start with an iBooks. If I click on it like that, I hit next, you'll see it says save as hazaraz.ibooks. Now I'm going to hit export. It'll just take a minute. Longer articles obviously take longer to export. Alright, so that should be all done. I'm also going to go back and I'm going to export it again as a PDF. The image quality, I've never gone through and done the better or best. I just do good because that's just fine with me. So now I'm exporting it again. You'll see it says PDF. And I hit export. And look, it's already done. Now, to upload it to BB9, I'm going to go to BB9. obviously. That's, of course, how we start. And I will actually just show you by uploading it to our page. So I'll go to the spot where I'm going to put it. Look at all these great presentations that are going to be going on at Waukesha 1. So many things to choose from. Thanks for coming to ours. Here we are. Oh, that's not us. Every time I look at this, our spot has changed. Okay, meet our friends. All right, so going into our folder, I'm going to hit build content, and I'm just going to hit item. And I'm going to write Hazaraz. Let's see, I'll say iBook example. All right, I usually put in a little text there that gives the kids the directions, like you'll be annotating this article or when it's due, that kind of thing. Now under attachments, I hit browse my computer, and if I type in Hazaraz, I'll find it. Also, you'll notice that the iBooks have really bright things to look at, so you can see the different iBooks that I've got here. So if I type in, or if I look at Hazaraz, this is an iBook kind over here I can see, so I'll hit open. And you'll see it's called an IBA. I'm also going to add another file, and I'm going to find the Hazaraz PDF, which for some reason I'm not finding all of a sudden. That's no good. That's really strange. I wonder what the deal is. If I look down through, I see the iBook, and see, sometimes we all have issues, or maybe it is just me. It could totally just be me. If I go under my PDF, okay, here it is. I don't know why it wasn't coming up. Maybe I was spelling it wrong. So PDF documents, Hazaraz, and I've got both of these, and you can mess with your standard options down here. I usually don't. I couldn't even tell you what they are half the time. Okay, so now I hit submit. Sometimes with the iBooks, I do notice that takes a little bit longer to come up, but it will work out eventually. I super promise it will. Again, I like to do both of them just because it shows kids that they can do it whichever way they need to. Again, with PDFs, that's when they can really do the annotating and notability and then submit it back to you if you're going to count it as a formative assessment. If you don't really need to see the actual work that they've done, and you're just walking around the classroom, using iBooks is great too, especially because it can read to them, which we'll be showing you in our presentation. Again, as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. My name is Angela McLean. You can get me at akmclean, MCLEAN, at Waukesha, blah, blah, blah. Otherwise, I hope you have a good day and happy annotating.